ahead on 12 News, a lesson on drug abuse. A forum in Plymouth reveals what illegal drug is an increasing concern. Then, Quiz Whiz. A Providence Academy student appears on Teen Jeopardy. But first, dissecting difficult jobs news. What Boston Scientific's announcement likely means for operations in Maple Grove. 12 News starts right now. Changes could soon be on the way for one of Minnesota's key players in the medical device industry.
Boston Scientific, which has operations in Maple Grove and Plymouth, announced plans to cut as many as 1,000 jobs as part of a company restructuring program. Delane Cleveland joins us now with what it could mean for Minnesota. Delane?
Mike and Alex, here's what we know. Those job cuts will save Boston Scientific about $115 million a year. But what we don't know is how many of those job losses will come from the company's operations here in Minnesota.
The Minnesota division has been performing at a level that, we'll probably see some cuts here, again, across the board.
Industry experts say the upcoming cuts are due to a 5% decline in sales this past year compared to 2011, but also because of a medical device tax that went into effect as part of the Affordable Care Act, in which the federal government gets a percentage of every medical device sale.
2.3% of every sale, you can do the math. I mean, for companies like Boston, Medtronic, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars taken out of their infrastructure with really no change in their sales cycle. So these are difficult decisions that people need to make.
No word yet on when exactly those job cuts will begin or how many of those cuts will come by means of attrition or layoffs. And Mike and Alex, just so people know, Boston Scientific employs about 5,000 people in Minnesota and about 3,000 at their Maple Grove operation.
Stay tuned on when and where and who. Right?
Yes, indeed.
All right, thank you, Delane. Well, at the state capitol, a call on Congress to pass comprehensive immigration reform. A large crowd of immigrants, civil rights leaders, and labor union members packed the Capitol Rotunda today. There is growing optimism that immigration reform could happen in Washington, and this was their chance to support President Obama's proposal. The president's plan includes tightening border security and cracking down on employers hiring undocumented workers. This plan also includes a path to earn citizenship for more than 11 million undocumented immigrants already living in the United States.
We stand with President Obama and leaders of goodwill across the political spectrum to do the right thing by 11 million people and make our country strong and state stronger.
Well, the number of undocumented immigrants living in Minnesota ranges from 55,000 to 95,000 people.
As soldiers return from active duty overseas, many veterans are opting to go back to school. More than 400 veterans are enrolled at Hennepin Tech's 2 campuses. The Veterans Resource Center at the Brooklyn Park campus held its annual open house on Wednesday. It's a place where student veterans can connect with one another, but also get questions answered about military benefits and course registration. Veteran Tang Vu says having a place to go on campus helps ease the transition to civilian life.
Many people are coming back into school, trying to start up a new life from the military because they had a job, but then now they're trying to get a degree and trying to move on with their life and try to get better jobs and stuff like that, and seeing how the economy is going down and stuff. So it's a big help and a big push.
Vu served in Iraq and returned in 2011. As drug abuse trends continue to change, educators from Intermediate District 287 fight to stay in the know.
District 287 offers specialized education to students in the West Metro, including Brooklyn Center, Osseo, and Robbinsdale. And as Renee Bonneau reports, the district took time this week to discuss new drug trends and ways to help students.
As social worker Mary Beth Barrett Grimsby listened to shocking stories about drug abuse, in the back of her mind sat experiences of her own.
We get some students that are starting to get involved with some drugs and alcohol, and also a lot of the families have issues with chemical dependency.
She was one of more than 100 local professionals in this room who work closely with young people who are trying to stay ahead of a crucial learning curve.
Drug abuse and abuse changes continually, and it seems like every couple of years there's a new fad or a new phase. And so to kind of keep current with information, I like to come to conferences just to gain that information.
That's why Intermediate District 287 held its 12th annual Chemical Health Forum that features speakers from the health field and offers the latest facts on drug abuse. One of the topics of the forum, the sharp rise of heroin and prescription opiate abuse in the Twin Cities. According to the Minnesota Department of Human Services, 20% of admissions to addiction treatment programs in the Metro in 2011 were for opiates. It was second only to admissions for alcohol. But opiates aren't the only drugs getting widespread attention.
There's a lot of stuff culturally happening around marijuana that has influence on young people. Legalization movements, medical marijuana, and that changes sort of how we think about and react to and how we talk to each other about marijuana.
Barrett Grimsby hopes a few hours of education on her part can help change the futures of some of her young students. In Plymouth, Renee Bonneau, 12 News.
The group also heard a presentation on synthetic drugs like incense and bath salts.
When it comes to slowing down traffic zipping through a neighborhood, there are several options. Electronic speed trailers is one. Another option is speed humps. Brooklyn Center and Plymouth both have them, and this week, Brooklyn Park discussed those speed humps, but don't expect to see them in the city anytime soon.
If a neighborhood were to put in speed humps and petition, there are neighborhoods in our city that wouldn't be able to afford that. So for me, that would create yet another disparity in our community of those that have and those that have not.
It's education, and if the education is a $140 speeding ticket, it gets to people.
The Brooklyn Park City Council expressed several concerns with speed humps. One of them is cost. Putting in one would cost between $3,000 to $5,000. The council also wondered about their effectiveness. Councilmember Bob Maida said the people who would benefit most from speed humps is skateboarders.
A New Hope is trying to quiet trains that blow their horns as they rumble across Boone Avenue. When New Hope rebuilds the streets this summer, the city hopes to include concrete medians near the railroad tracks that would help keep cars from driving around railroad crossing arms. It's a requirement before the Canadian Pacific trains can stop blowing horns as they cross the street. With about 20 trains a day going through, Mayor Kathy Hopkins says a lot of people in the area have asked for a 24-hour quiet zone. Approval from the state, federal government, and the railroad, though, is still months away.
Bike riders in the Northwest Metro will have more off-road trails designed especially for them after a round of funding from Hennepin County. The county has approved spending $100,000 for a bike trail in Plymouth along Xenium Lane. Another $100,000 will go to a bike trail along Region Avenue in Brooklyn Park. New Hope will get more than $13,000 for bike lanes on Boone Avenue. And in Golden Valley, they're spending $20,000 to study a bike trail along Golden Valley Road. Coming up, complaints, and more complaints.
12 News Money Savers looks at the industries that had to answer a lot of unhappy customers. Then later in sports, top-ranked Park Center aims for another win on the basketball court as they take on Armstrong.
But first, it's a look at your AccuWeather forecast.
Brooklyn Park police say there's a new scam on the streets.
Scammers are posing as utility workers and asking for reloadable debit cards. Reporter Shannon Slatton explains that scam and more in today's Money Savers.
It's a new year and there are new scams out there to tell you about. We have Dan Hendrickson with the Better Business Bureau here to talk about one new scam that's causing a little bit of concern right now with reloadable debit cards. What can you tell us about those?
We're hearing that people are going door to door pretending to be utility workers and then asking people to pay their utility bill with reloadable debit cards, Green Dot Money Pack cards. And this sounds strange, and it is strange. This is not how it works. Your power company is not going to come to your door, so that's a red flag right there. And these reloadable debit cards are very easily drained. Once you give your numbers out, which is what these scammers are going to ask for, they can drain the money off of those cards right away, and then you have nothing, just a plastic card that's worth nothing.
And so the advice here is go through the regular charitable lines?
Yeah, and ask for ID at the door and always verify with the power company or whatever utility they're with and make sure that it is someone with the utility company.
All right, let's talk about some of the top complaints from last year. The first three dealt with your automobile, your cars.
Yep, the first two were used car and new car dealers, and then the third was auto repair. So we always say that's not a big surprise. People's cars, obviously you need that to get around throughout your day, you need to get it to your job. So when there's a problem, we're going to hear about it. So that's not surprising. But the great thing is both used car dealers and new car dealers did a great job of resolving complaints at 92% and 98% respectively.
So they do work well with folks to get those
When there's
solved.
a problem, they get in there and they get it fixed. next.
All right, we saw contractors listed a few different times in the top 10 list. What can you tell us about dealing with those?
Well, there too, it's your house or your apartment, and when something's wrong or something's not to your liking, you're going to come to the Better Business Bureau probably. So the best thing is to always start with us. Check out the contractors at bbb.org. Make sure they have their license with the Department of Labor, and ask around, ask for references. Make sure you know who you're dealing with, and also make sure you know what to do, who to contact if there's a problem.
And if you do have a problem, what should you do next?
Well, we always say first try to work it out with the business. That's always best. We know sometimes that's not possible. The relationship's too deteriorated. So at that point, we always suggest contact us. You can file a complaint with the Department of Labor, but a complaint at bbb.org is always a good idea.
All right. Thank you very much, Dan, for sharing that information. Now back to you on the desk, Mike and Alex.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Coming up, students at Plymouth Middle School weave together a solution to help victims of Superstorm Sandy.
But first in sports, Wayzata and Hopkins battle in both girls and boys basketball. Jay Wilcox has that and more when we come back. Jay Wilcox with a look at sports right now, and you know, when Park Center and Armstrong meet, this is turning into a pretty good rivalry, especially when they both have good teams.
Yeah, there's a lot of good basketball in the area this year. It seems like every day we're talking about another school that has a really good team. And both of these teams definitely fit that bill. Park Center and Armstrong have had some pretty good boys basketball teams throughout the years. This season, Park Center has one of its best teams ever. The Pirates are ranked #1 in the state, while the Falcons are quietly putting together a solid season as well. They hope to knock off the Pirates. In transition, Isaiah McKay gets the pass to Joshua Matthews, who powers it up and in. He scores the first 5 points, and the Pirates go up 5-0. J.J. Morris steps back and pops the three-pointer for Armstrong as they get going after a cold start. They're within 8-5. McKay steps into this long three, and he buries it. He's one of 3 Pirates in double figures with 14 in the game. Bo Powell's team leads for most of this first half. Quentin Hooker steps into the passing lane and gets the breakaway dunk. He scores 19. PC leads 35-20 at the half. Without injured Connor Getchie, Armstrong fights back early in the second half. Nick O'Hara uses the reverse dribble to get free for a jumper. Armstrong's within 9 at 40-31. Devin Buckley picks off the Falcons' pass, and he wants a dunk. He misses it, but Trayton Daniels is there to tip it in. The Pirates lead by 17. After trailing by 20+, Armstrong makes another push. O'Hara over to Evan Nolan for a three. The Falcons are within 15. But Buckley and the Pirates are never really threatened. They win 79-68, part of what's been a fun season for the conference-leading Pirates.
It's been really great. I've had a lot of fun. I know us as a team, we bonded together more as a team. We become part of really something special and become more as a family. And it's been great, you know, just playing together as one.
Well, to say Hopkins has dominated the boys basketball series with Lake Conference rival Wayzata is an understatement. The Trojans haven't defeated the Royals since the early 1990s. Wayzata hoping this is the night they break the streak. Hopkins freshman Amir Coffey is a good one. In transition, he spins, gathers himself, and goes up to score. The Royals take the early lead. Kyle Calavoda makes a quick move to the baseline and splits the defenders here for Wayzata, scoring plus a foul. He scores 14 on the night for the Trojans. Coffey penetrates and then kicks it back to Nick Johnson for 3 from the top of the key. Hopkins goes up 20-14, 9 for Johnson on the night. Just before halftime, Kamali Chambers calmly hits the short jumper to beat the buzzer. It's a close one as Hopkins takes a 36-32 lead into halftime. Second half, and Coffey has plenty of time to launch this three-pointer. It's 43-36 Royals, 10 on the night for Coffey, and Wayzata's Phil Ward has that agitated look going. His Trojans aren't out of it yet, though. Calavoda gets ahead of the pack for an easy layup, and they're within 6 at 54-48. But once again, Hopkins prevails. They beat the press, and Philip Stribling gets the layup. Hopkins takes a 79-61 victory over the Trojans. In girls basketball, Wayzata's managed to win a couple of games against Hopkins in recent seasons, but not too many. The Royals look pretty good in their matchup with the Trojans on Tuesday night. Mikala Shackelford hits a long two-pointer as Hopkins jumps out to a quick 10-0 lead. Nia Coffey's shot here doesn't drop, and Molly O'Toole is there to clean up for the rebound and basket for the Royals. The Trojans try to battle back. Katie Schultz knocking down a three-pointer here. It's Riley Johnson with a nice pass to Kiana Nickel on the cut, but Hopkins still leads it 29-15 at the half. In the second half, the Royals work it around to freshman Nia Hawley, and she hits the jumper, another big weapon for Hopkins. A nice pass inside then from Ashley Bates to Katrina Reeves. She gets position and scores, makes it 44-19. The Hopkins reserves get in on the fun. Freshman Evelyn Knox hits a three-pointer, and the Royals win easily, 63-28. The regular season in high school girls hockey ends this weekend. Thursday night, there are two games that involve top 10 teams. Defending Class A champion Breck hosts Hopkins, the 7th-ranked team in Class AA. That game is at 7:30 Thursday at Breck Anderson Arena in Golden Valley. Also, the top-ranked team in Class AA, Benilde St. Margaret's, is at home to take on number 4 Eden Prairie. That's also a 7:30 face-off at the St. Louis Park Rec Center. And pretty good tune-ups for playoff time when you get to play a good opponent like that right at the end.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Jay.
Thank you, Jake. Still ahead, a Providence Academy student who is California dreaming.
And this dream involves a shot at the Daily Double. We'll explain after this short break. Students impacted by Superstorm Sandy last year will be a little warmer thanks to help from kids at Plymouth Middle School.
As part of their sewing unit, 7th and 8th graders in Misty Maruska's Family and Consumer Science class created 4 dozen blankets to send to a school in Rockaway, New York. The blankets will go to 3- and 4-year-old kids in a low-income area where help has been slow to arrive. Maruska says she talked with her class about the devastation left by the hurricane, and she says they made the final decision to help out. The blankets were mailed Monday, and they should be in the hands of kids in New York by the end of the week, and she's so proud of those guys. Well, finally, the answer is tonight. The question is, when will a Providence Academy junior get her debut on Jeopardy?
This is the Jeopardy Team Tournament.
17-year-old Lila Anderson's appearance on Jeopardy's Teen Week airs tonight. The Providence Academy Junior was among 15 students competing for a $75,000 grand prize. And coming up on Thursday on 12 News, we will talk with Lila about her Jeopardy experience. And friends and family are gathered as we speak at a Plymouth restaurant, ready to watch that episode.
They're having a party tonight,
Yes.
and they've been very good. They haven't said a word about the outcome.
That's right. They taped it back in November, so they've had to keep quiet.
They know, but
for
they haven't said.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
That's all the news for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
Stay with us. Community Corner coming up next. We'll see you again tomorrow.